And we're back for a little NFL Print Factory show for the people here. We got Big T, we got ODB, and myself. That I'll tell you right now, the treatment that I have to deal with on a day in and day out basis is just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I'm just trying to start this show on time. You got me and ODB just sitting in here. We're waiting for the big man to just walk on in. And then he has the fucking audacity when he shows up 5 minutes late to yell at me 30 seconds later saying, you text me to hurry up and you're looking at your phone. Oh, screw off, Anthony Wayne. Okay. That's my first message to you. How about that?
I mean, you rush me on and then you're like this. Just fucking looking down. Like, what were you looking at?
I was getting my phone set up because when I do all like I get the sports book up. So I have like the sports book up on my phone so I can do the whole, game by game stuff. I had to get my ID, my face ID. You don't know anything about two-step verification, but I was looking down because I was getting my face ID and everything, getting it set up. Don't you worry about what I'm doing, okay? Listen. Richie in the chat says 8 minutes ain't bad, JSU. No, listen, I'm trying to get this show. I'm trying to get Tony into a habit of getting to be on time for the people. All right. We've been getting messages on Twitter about it. I'm sick of hearing about it. I'm just trying to make Big T, a little better at getting here on time. It's not my fault, because what'll happen is he'll then turn it around on me and it will be my fault, which is what happened here. And what he's doing right now is he's saying
ODB
it's my fault.
ODB was the witness. He saw you looking down. I was 5 minutes late and you were looking at your cock all over your own schlong or something.
I wouldn't have to look that far down, bro. What's up, ODB?
What an entrance.
And ODB's just getting stroked. ODB making Johnny Heff's wallet larger, owning my Bengals last week. I mean, look at the smile. I mean,
that was so easy. You guys just fall right for the Bengals fucking trap. You can't shake your Bengals love and your Eagles hate. Every game's independent, boys. We got to take the money where they put it, where they give it to us, and that Eagles. Oh my God, I can't believe they gave us points and juice on that game. That was as easy as it gets.
Yeah, I'll take that on that one. I was definitely on the Bengals with Tony. So you win that game. I don't know if you'll win your Houston battle, because we just watched them implode, but I'll give you credit on the Eagles, because you do love the Eagles much more than me and Tony do. I will say, though, the Eagles have definitely played better. We should give them a little more credit. Tony did give them credit actually yesterday on the Showdown show, saying that their defense is much improved from last year. So it is a little bit of a different team, but we definitely don't give them as much credit on this show.
I think we're dealing with an NFL that has really seen very few teams kind of rise to the top. And there's a couple teams that are up at the top, but then there's a little grouping of teams that are next. And I find the Eagles in that group because I think they're kind of tough and their skill position players are tough. You have a competent quarterback and, I don't know. I find this Eagles team just to be a tough, hard-nosed team that is going to fight and battle. And they got big dudes and they got tough dudes. And, they're a little soft in a few places, but they have more tough dudes than most of the NFL at this point, and they seem to be relatively healthy. So,
Kevin wants to know which team you were on last night. Were you on the Jets?
No, I mean I was on the Texans, but I tweeted out that it looked like a super trap spot, and it looked like a spot where Houston was going to struggle. But I was just honestly so tired of getting ribbed for taking the Jets every week. I knew I knew the Jets were the play, but I was like, you know what? You've just gone down with this ship 3 weeks in a row that it's supposed to be the Jets. Just play the Texans. And
I actually get it, ODB, because you were kind of caught between a rock and your fucking team. You know what I mean? It's like I keep falling for this dumb rock every fucking week, but then I got my Houston team that no one's on right now, and it's like, I got to go with my team. This happens to me all the time. It's just fun. It is funny though, because you were like, you come in, you're like about the Eagles saying how we can't have our biases get in the way and stuff, and then your bias might have got in the way just a little bit on that.
It was total perfect storm of just having bet the Jets the last 3 weeks and them having quit on me and just being tired of having a quitting team. And look, it looks like a bad play now, but I mean, the Texans kicked a field goal to make it 14-13 with 6 minutes left. They had a stupid roughing the center on the field goal. They got the ball at the 10-yard line.
Yeah.
They got down to the 10-yard line and then ran 3 terrible plays and then missed a 27-yard field goal. It would have been 14-13 with 6 minutes left. I mean, everything plays out a little different, but
I mean, the dude fumbled on the inch line on purpose too, though.
Of course, and also Garrett made the catch of the century that got overturned by the shin on 3rd and 19. I mean,
it was a crazy game.
Let's just be honest. I would say 40 to 50% of NFL games are coin flips at the end of the day, and we want a victory lap when we're right, and we want to come at somebody when they're wrong. This one was kind of one of those coin flip games. I mean, there were so many within inches plays. And yes, the Jets guy, Corley fumble going in the end zone, but also Stroud fumbled at the 10. They also missed a field goal from the 10. And also at the end of the game with a chance, well, I mean, they would have just cut it to 3 potentially, but they were down at the 3-yard line before getting sacked and kicking a field goal to cut it to 8. I mean, this game could have gone either way, but the Jets were probably the right side. So, I mean, I'll take the L, but I don't mind it. It just is what it is.
I made the case that these two teams were like super similar, and one team's just run good with wins, and one team's run horrible with fucking wins and stuff. Like they just the Jets are that team that loses the games that they should fucking win, and Houston is winning games, and me and Tony have talked about this, that they literally shouldn't be in, and they're winning those. It's like it's literally the opposite right now.
Well,
so I made the case
let's just call the Texans what they are at this point. The Texans are an average football team. This offensive line cannot pass block. CJ, although I think that he's still really good, he has regressed a little, and you can just tell he's not elevating the guys that are on his team at the receiver position. When Nico's not in the game, he's not elevating Hutchison and Mechie and Woods, and those guys are dust balls. I mean, and Dalton Schultz is a dust ball. Tank's the only guy who's okay, and he hasn't even been elevated this year. So, I mean, I can't sit here and give CJ his flowers for being so good last year and then not punish him for not elevating his team this year. So I think Houston's a team we're going to have to take a look at as the season goes on. I think the pieces are there. I think the coaching staff, the quarterback, the running back, the cornerbacks, I think it's there if they get injury free. I mean, Will Anderson was out for the second half too. Big loss there. Larry Tunsil has played terrible. One of the better offensive line in football has been abysmal this year. So, I mean, I think the Texans are a team where we do want to look to fade, but a lot like that Minnesota team a couple years ago that everybody wanted to fade and they kept winning. If the market wants to fade them, I'm not willing to just totally write them off because there is a lot of skill on that team, but I'm not just going to blindly back them either. So I think they're a team that we're just going to have to evaluate.
Their division is just absolutely awful. That was another thing me and Tony talked about. It's like, who's actually challenging them in that division? Like, it's literally nobody. So, yeah, they kind of get a good run here. But I think when you get to the playoffs, you're going to probably want to fade that team. But, all right, that's enough. They played yesterday. We got today's games to talk about here, or for this weekend, Sunday main slate. We'll start off. First game on the slate here, your boy, Bo Nix. I'll give Tony a chance to talk about Bo Nix first here against the Baltimore Ravens. It's a 9.5-point spread in Baltimore. It's a 46.5 total. Baltimore's been giving it up to the receiver. We saw Jameis Winston and guys like Cedric Tillman have a lot of success last week. Baltimore dropping that. Crazy game, crazy ending. Now they get a similar spot here, but at home against the Denver team, who's, I mean, they're scrappy. Good Denver defense. I think Bo Nix still has a lot to learn, but he's okay. Like, he's just not what you guys say.
JSU ODB. Every week we got to listen to the same.
He's
tangent.
okay. Like, I don't know what you want. He played Carolina last week.
Like, God, you hate him every week.
I don't want to hate him. I don't want to hate him. You guys just literally fucking stroke his cock. I can't help it. Like, I can't be fucking stroking his cock with you guys every fucking week.
With no talent. He keeps winning with nobody. Like,
it honestly is just the litmus test. Or if you watch the games and if you watch guys who break down
defense.
the film.
His defense. I'm just gonna say
a lot. If you're on the Bo Nix sucks bandwagon, and there are plenty of people that are still on it, it just proves to me you're not watching the games and you're not watching these quarterbacks break down the film on the week after, because every single guy who breaks down the film
I'll turn it back on
every single guy who breaks down the film.
If you watch the games, I don't care who breaks down the films. I'll tell you right now, if you watch the games, I could pull out 10 plays where Bo Nix it looks good, and I could pull out 10 plays where Bo Nix looks awful. And I don't care who breaks down the film. Anyone who breaks down his film will tell you he has some really bad plays filtered in with the good ones. And if you think he's just all good all the time, you're out of your fucking mind.
Nobody said that. He's played 6 games in the NFL.
He's so good. Like,
every week you give.
I got a question. Is he CJ Stroud? Is he even close to what CJ Stroud was rookie year?
No, no one.
You guys make him seem like he is. ODB literally just talked about him. Yes, you do.
What is wrong with you? CJ Stroud was potential MVP last year. Nobody's even talking about
everyone who breaks down his film. Everyone who knows anything about football and watches the game sees that Bo Nix is an elite quarterback in the NFL.
I didn't say
he just
elite.
Literally said that.
He's a good quarterback.
JSU more than Bo Nix. Like,
you guys are killing me right now.
We have the same argument every week as Bo Nix gets a W.
Don't give me literally good quarterback and
replay the tape.
2 wide receivers. Literally throwing it in between 2 wide receivers. He's really good.
God.
Go, please talk about this game.
Every week. Oh, I don't need to talk about it because we can just record each week and just play the same argument that we play every single week.
So you're taking Denver?
Receivers. He got it. They won 28-14, but he sucked. He missed receivers.
Can you just pick this game and stop talking about last week? Pick this game. Who do you like?
I mean, I like Baltimore. I don't like Baltimore with the what is Baltimore favored by 9.5?
Yeah.
Denver's D is too good to get 9.5. I mean, Baltimore was last week they lost to Cleveland, right? Like, how do you lose to Cleveland? I'll never like this Baltimore team. I don't care if everyone Baltimore's Bo Nix to me for JSU. That's the comparison. No matter who likes Baltimore, I'm not going to like Baltimore. I mean, Lamar Jackson misses so many open receivers. I freaking hate Baltimore. Denver, I like Denver. I like Bo Nix. I think he looks good. I just like how they play. They got a good defense. I like how he can move. I don't like any of their other players, though, is why I like Bo Nix, because if you put another quarterback on there, they wouldn't be winning games. Like, even obviously Jaden would be winning games, but some of these other rookies, like, just suck. So, I don't know. The Broncos don't have any – it's not like I like the guys, but I do like plus 9.5. I mean, 9.5 – it'll probably go up, too, because everyone always bets Baltimore. I was hoping you could catch a 10 somewhere. I don't see a 10 anywhere, though. It's 9.5 across the board. Baltimore, in fantasy-wise, though, I don't know how you play Baltimore guys against this defense. Even Lamar, I'm sure he'll play, but he popped up questionable, I think. I'm sure he'll play, so I'm sure it's nothing. But
they said it was they said he was resting or something like that. So
yeah, I mean, I'm sure it wasn't anything. I'm not worried about it, but I don't know. I don't like this spot. Even though they lost last week and they're at home, I never tease that stuff. I do a lot of teasers, but I would never tease 9.5 to – I don't think it's terrible, but Baltimore is the type of team that when they really beat you, they can blow you out too. So I don't like that. I would rather just take the 9.5 and not tease it. But I don't know. I'm on Denver. I don't like much in this game fantasy-wise.
ODB, do you like this game a little more than Tony? Because it sounds like Tony's kind of, I'll take the points, but it's not a game that I really love.
I mean, I like Baltimore as a team a lot better than you guys do. I think they're a very good team. I think this is not the best spot for Denver. You do have a rookie quarterback going probably one of the more intimidating places to play, I would say, is Baltimore. That being said, I'm going to reserve I'm going to reserve laying 10 points for really good teams that are facing really bad teams. I mean, the teams that are getting 10 this year are like Carolina, Tennessee. Um, Denver's a good football team. They're good defensively and they're good offensively. Are they great? Are they elite offensively? No, but they have a good coach. They have a team that never quits. Bo Nix might make some mistakes. He might do some, but he's going to fight till the end. The backdoor cover is there. I kind of like Denver. It's just too many points to me. To me, this feels like this should be a 7. So I'm getting a free couple of points. Denver has shown some moxie to be able to fight teams. And look, Denver's schedule really toughens up. They go to Baltimore, they go to Kansas City. I think they have a really tough one after that as well. And most likely Denver's going to lose the next few games. And now people are going to jump on and they're going to be like, see, we told you Denver was a fraud. I just want to go on the record. I don't think Denver's elite. I think there's a high probability they don't even make the playoffs, but they're a hell of a lot better than a bottom feeder team. They're a middle of the pack team, and they're being treated with this point spread as though they're a bottom rung team. And I don't think of Denver that way at all. So I'm going to take the points here and think the feisty Denver kind of, hangs in it. And it's a really tough spot for Baltimore too, because they have Cincinnati coming up, and that kind of basically just, they win that game, they probably win that division. So I think that's kind of a focal point. They have their big rival coming up next. So I'm taking Denver, but I'm not loving it. It's not my number one play, but I'll definitely be on Denver this week.
Yeah, so I kind of agree with you on the spread take that you had, where it's like, man, these shitty teams like Carolina and stuff like that, they're kind of like, and they're not there just because I make fun of Bo Nix. The defense is really good. You guys give, I think, Bo Nix a little more credit, and I give the defense a little more credit for some of those wins, because some of them are really ugly wins that their defense kept them in the game. Like their offense didn't do shit. So that's why I give Bo Nix a downgrade. But this is what tilts me about this whole thing right here. You guys come in, you talk up Bo Nix. Do you know which defense is giving up the most fantasy points, passing fantasy points, and the most receiving fantasy points? The Baltimore fucking Ravens. If you think Bo Nix is an average quarterback, average, I'm not even saying he's better than that. Like, if you think he's average, I won't go anything past that. Why the fuck are you not talking about Bo Nix? Like, hey, this might be a good spot. Like, is it just because you don't like the Ravens offense against the Denver defense? Is that what it is?
I'll tell you the reason. I'll tell you the reason. Because Baltimore's defense has really struggled on the road. This game's at home. If this game was somewhere else, then I might consider it. But at this point, I'm not sure that a rookie quarterback going into hostile territory is ready to go nuke. But I mean, let's look at the teams that pass well against them. Baker Mayfield with Mike Evans for a half, with Godwin for the whole time. Jameis Winston, who just didn't give a fuck and just aired it out at home. It's not like people are going into Baltimore. Joe Burrow completely dismantled them
you can throw him out. He's elite
in Cincy. So yeah. I'm just worried about the home field. That's kind of my hesitation.
All right, fair enough. Tony, do you kind of agree it's more like home field or Baltimore's offense against the defense?
I agree with anything that was being said. I don't want to sit here and argue about it though forever. Like, the Ravens defense has faced Josh Allen, Dak Prescott, freaking
Jameis Winston,
Jayden Daniels, Baker Mayfield, Patrick Mahomes. He
Jameis
literally
Winston.
faced Jameis. That's the worst one he's played all year. Like, the Ravens have faced the hardest possible schedule. They've literally faced the Chiefs, Cowboys, Bills, Bengals, Commanders, Bucks. Like, that's murderer's row. And just because I like Bo Nix doesn't mean I have to like throwing to Cortland Sutton and friggin' who's the other bum that you guys
Troy
always like?
Franklin?
Troy Franklin.
Ville?
Like, Lucas Kroll and Devon Vele. I mean, I have to like Bo Nix because he's throwing to those guys.
No,
Like,
you
I
don't have to. I was just like, you don't like anybody? Like, it was more just like you don't like
the
anyone?
absolute bums that he plays with. I have to like on the road versus Baltimore.
Okay. All right. Keep moving
I
here.
think Big T and I are
Miami.
going to have a good show today. I'm right with you there. It makes
I
sense.
would just
It's like,
say, if I had such a strong take on a team, I'd be able to play a
I
receiver
think
from
Bo Nix
from
has
said
played good
team.
as a rookie. That's my take. Like,
Okay.
I don't think he's Joe Montana out there. I just think he's won games. Like, he's looked good to me.
Listen, my job is to get the answers, even if you like it or not, Tony. I'm just trying to get the answers. Miami and Buffalo here. Buffalo 6-point favorites at home against Miami here. 49.5 is the total in this spot. Buffalo has played really good against Miami. It's kind of just been a tough spot for Miami here. Buffalo killed them last game. Tony, you're shaking your head, kind of yes. It seems like it's just the Buffalo spot again, but they do get, Tua back and everything, so the offense is a little better. But Tua's really struggled against Buffalo, so I think it's a Buffalo spot. What about you?
Yeah, it's going to be tough for me to take Miami. I just the only thing that gets me a little, I guess the spread's 5.5 or 6. I just don't. Miami just is rough. When you're basing your whole season on Tua, and Tua, I've never thought he was good. I don't know. Buffalo just looks like a real team. I know they've got stomped a few times in weird spots where they just got totally crushed. But you add in some pieces, you start to get a little healthier. Their defense looks a little bit better. I mean, some of these teams, their Ds are getting better, which is going to help them. I just can't see Miami winning. So I got to take Buffalo in this spot. It's another spot, though, fantasy. Like, I used to always like these Miami games, and maybe it's just that they've been so bad without Tua that it scarred me a little bit. But I just look at this game, and I'm like, how can I like these Miami pieces? And Tyreek Hill just continues to be cheap and continues to just not do much. So one of these games, you got to think he explodes, but Buffalo's kind of they played him a ton. We always talk about this on the shows, but these division games, you start to know teams better. I think they even played in the playoffs last year or the year before. They just have played a bunch, and I just think Buffalo, playing good football, I can't see Miami winning this game. The price points are nice for Miami, though. Tyreek's cheap. Achane's cheap. Waddle's cheap. They just don't get there, though. One of these weeks, you got to think they do. I don't know who they play after Buffalo, but I think you can get on them sometime soon. I just don't think it's this week. And then you got these guys pretty cheap for Buffalo, too. I mean, Tupac, 59, Amari, 58, although Amari's questionable, too. It happens when you play with no quarterback out there for a while. It's gonna hurt. I don't think many teams are good. That's a good call. I mean, I'm not too stubborn to admit it. Looking at the teams, I don't think I do think the NFC teams, I like more NFC teams than AFC. Like, even the teams that I think kind of suck in the NFC, I think are okay. But you're right. I don't think a lot of teams are good because I don't think the Chiefs are good. They're undefeated. There's a lot of teams I don't think are good. So hold me to it. But I like Buffalo in this game.
Yeah, the AFC is definitely the weaker side. I agree with you on that. ODB, you like anything here, Miami and Buffalo?
Yeah, like I said last week, I like the Cardinals because I feel like the Miami's offense is a little broken. I mean, they did manage to put some points on the board, but the defense is terrible. And I think the league's kind of figured out Miami, and the first team to figure them out was Buffalo. I mean, Buffalo's done well versus them. This is kind of it for Buffalo. I mean, Buffalo can just take this game seriously and just kind of coast the rest of the way. I mean, this is let's just end this stupid Miami team and move on. I always like Josh Allen versus Miami, and I always kind of like Buffalo against Miami. I think this is just a spot. Let's just end their season. So yeah, it's Buffalo for me. And the only Miami guy I kind of like is Achane, just because trailing script, I could see him getting a lot of dump offs and things like that. So yeah, I don't really like a whole lot. I could see Cook. I mean, I think there's a lot of good running backs again on the slate. So, I mean, Cook probably come in low owned, but whatever. I mean, it's nothing really stands out except for the fact that I think the Bills are going to win this game.
Cook's like one of those running backs I never play, but he always does feel like randomly go off in a few spots, like just have monster games. He did it last week in Seattle. And he did it against Miami. This was the game when this was the showdown game. Now that I remember, where he scored like 3 touchdowns or something like that. So yeah, he could be. It definitely could be a James Cook spot for sure. So Miami's D's bad. Let's go to the Washington team. Hail Mary, coming off the Hail Mary here against the Bears, taking on the Giants in New York. 4-point spread here. Washington is favored in New York. New York offense been struggling. Tyrone Tracy's look good though. I don't know if there's any news on if he's going to play or not yet, but hopefully
I think
he plays.
Play.
Good. I hope he does. He looked good. And the Washington defense, I think you can still get them, but they held up pretty well against Chicago. I mean, pretty much Chicago did nothing against them for 3.5, but pretty much till the end of the game. And offense is definitely still there. Jaden's playing through a little injury, but he looks fine to me. ODB, what do you got here? I like the Washington side. I think this is Washington all the way. What do you say?
Did you guys have time to cash your Jaden Daniels Rookie of the Year tickets yet, or are you gonna wait till the end? Because I feel like that they should have already settled that, right? I mean, that was
our MVP ticket.
MVP tickets are super
I
live
didn't
too.
settle my MVP ticket. I still got that one, baby.
That Hail Mary was massive for our futures. We needed that so bad for the
they were
offering and for the MVP.
They were offering a cash out too, Big T. I was like, oh yeah, baby, let's see it. I want to see.
Yeah, it was big.
As far as this game, I mean, Washington defense was pretty impressive, and the Giants line is still got some holes in it. So, from a pure football standpoint, it looks like the Commanders are the play. But the Giants, I mean, season on the line. I mean, it probably already was. Their season's probably over. But I mean, if this team has any heart, any fight, they got to show up here. This is a team they've traditionally done well against. I know they feel like they got completely jobbed week 2 when they lost their kicker, and they should have won that football game. I think the Giants keep this game close. This feels like maybe Washington's smelling their own flowers a little bit too much. Getting a field goal, getting over a field goal at home. I'm just going to take the Giants, but I don't truly love it. But I definitely can't take Washington here off of that win versus a Giants team that I think still probably has a little heart.
I kind of like this here, JT. Daniel's neighbors, skinny stack, LSU thing. I'm in for it. I listen. The Washington defense is good. I still think you can attack, them with like one player. I don't know if it's a team where we want to be like full stack in Daniel Jones and 2 pass catchers, but I definitely think you can take a shot on one pass catcher or running back if you want. But I'm in on some Malik Neighbors. Tony, could you play a little Malik Neighbors? I know you're a big Neighbors guy.
So as we start to get further into the year, I start to trust my numbers more. And one of the reasons I like to chart my own stuff and kind of do it is just because it gets me a little bit off of some of the projections and stuff as the year goes. And I just always like having like my own individual flavor, even if it's whatever. There obviously like it's all schedule based and stuff, and there is holes in it. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying any of that, but I just like to have my own stuff. And one of the things with these teams, they've been solid against the pass, both of them on defense, and they're more susceptible to the run, which surprises me a little bit with these two teams because when you think of them, Neighbors was out for a little bit in there too and stuff, but I just like Tracy's looked really good, and I think you can get Washington through the ground a little bit. 4 of the last 6 weeks, they've given up top 10 running back performances. Tracy's looked really good. I just have a Giants problem. I think the Giants are better than people think. I don't know why I think that, because they suck. But just when I watch them, I like how they're strong up front. I like Neighbors. Danny Dimes obviously sucks, but I like some of their skill guys. I like the running, and Washington's run the ball good too. So I like the running games, which is a contrarian take, I think, in this game. I just like Tyrone Tracy. He's a beast. He looks solid, and I think he'll be able to run at home in this spot. And he's just not going to get ownership. He's only 5,500. Do I like Neighbors? Absolutely. I always like Neighbors, but I think I'd rather attack through Tyrone Tracy in this spot. I really like him. And then the Washington side, yeah, of course I like Jaden Daniels, McLaurin, but I don't know. Something like Austin Eckler, Brian Robinson's looked really good. Eckler really hasn't had a game, but he's 5,300. I think you can go there. Another thing, too, just from the pure numbers, I saw Kevin Peterson in chat talking about Zach Ertz. The Giants have been like maybe the best against tight end, one of the best against tight end. I mean, they just haven't been got by tight ends all year. So I think that has a lot to do with their guys up front, and maybe they can guard. They need tight ends more to block, maybe. Plus, go out in coverage a little bit more, too. So, I don't know. I'm more on the running games here. I'm sure the Washington probably just wins, but I'm kind of like ODB where I feel like the Giants are the play, but it's probably a bad play. I mean, Washington's just a good team. The Giants find ways to lose. I just can't pull the trigger on Washington, though.
All right. Can't pull the trigger on Washington. Orange giving Big T a little bit here. Big T thinks the Giants are good in the AFC or something like that.
I don't even disagree, because my take probably is stinky. I mean, it could be a stinky take. I don't disagree.
I mean, the Giants aren't the best team, but are they the worst team? I don't think they're the worst team. The Giants aren't that bad. I think they're not good.
When Big T says stuff like that, I mean, I kind of agree. I mean, it's not necessarily good. It's good compared to what the market views them. It's the same with the Broncos. We think the Broncos are good. We think the Giants are good. Do we think they're going to win the Super Bowl or make the playoffs? No. But what we're saying is in relation to how the market views this team and how they establish and set point spreads, we think there's value on those teams more often than not. That's basically
it's similar to what the Cardinals take pre the season starting, when we were all like, is this team really those odds are ridiculous for them to like win the division. They're better than what those odds show. They're better than what their win total was. It's kind of like
better than market. Yes. We think the Broncos are good. We think the Chiefs stink. Do we think that the Broncos are going to beat the Chiefs? Probably not. But we're talking about in relation to the market.
Yeah,
in relation to the market.
All that matters in betting too. Like
nothing else the Broncos the third worst team in that division or the fourth worst team in that division? Probably not, right? So they're better than what the market was giving them pre the season. So just to kind of, because I think there's a little confusion there, but I think we that makes some sense for the people. Anything else around this game, boys, before we move on?
Let's move on.
All right. New England and Tennessee, 3.5 point spread here in Tennessee. ODB, I'm coming right to you with this one. 38 is the total. What do you like here?
I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this game. Just going to say that these two teams both suck. They both have bad quarterbacks. They both have bad coaches. They both have a lost season. So why not just take the 3.5? I mean, it seems like too many points. I don't see a lot of scoring here, and I don't see a big advantage any side of the ball versus any of the other side of the ball. I mean, to me, it just looks like two bad teams that is going to come down to the end, and it's probably going to be a 16-14 game or something. So just 3.5 points seems like way too much. This line feels like it should be about 2. So I'll take a couple points of value and nothing from fantasy standpoint.
I agree with you. The 3.5 just seems like a bit much. Probably the under 2. Tony, I would assume you like the under here. Probably nothing else.
I mean, these are just games. Like we all three bet every day of our lives. We've done it for a while. You just look at yourself and you're like, even if you like something in this game, why would you put money on a game like this? The two shittiest teams. Yeah, we could like the under, but you know what happens sometimes with bad teams? Block punts, turnovers to the house. Like, there's so many other games. Just bet the other game. I mean, this game's so bad. I don't even want to talk about it. It's so bad. I'll save us the time.
All right. That was easy. Let's go to the Raiders and the Bengals. So we'll go back to Tony here since he saved us a little time. I'll give him a little more time to talk about his Bengals against my Raiders here. 45.5 is the total. 7-point spread, Tony, at home. Can the Bengals do it?
I'm still scarred from last week when I talked all that trash and then T. Higgins popped up freaking injured again before we even got off the show. Now it looks like he's not going to play again this week from what I've seen. I mean, how do you get hurt that much? And all these other teams get receivers for free. Like 3 other teams just get receivers for free. The Bengals, I heard some crazy stat. I don't know if this is true, but living in Cincinnati, I didn't fact check it. They've only made 2 in-season trades for players in 60 years. I mean, come on, Bengals. They got 6 scouts. I love the Bengals. I love these guys, but it's a joke franchise. It's run so poorly. It's just freaking embarrassing. I mean, is T. Higgins doing a lot of this too because he didn't get paid? Maybe a little bit. Who freaking knows? But they're a different team without T. Higgins. It's annoying. I mean, look at their roster. Their roster is built around Chase and T. I mean, all of a sudden, I mean, not that Zach Moss is important, but he might miss too. All of a sudden, T and him are out. I love Chase Brown. Don't get me wrong, but he's not an every down type back. It's good for our best ball shares. Get him in there and get him some work. I like that. But if you give Chase Brown 20, 25 carries, he's going to get hurt too. And all of a sudden, you're going to have no one left. I'm so annoyed by my freaking Bengals. Should they beat the Raiders? Absolutely. But again, I've said this 1,000 times about my Bengals. If they play the Chiefs, if they play the Bills, if they play these good teams, I'm always going to like them. And in these spots, I'm never going to like them. They're -7. I don't want to lay 7 with the Bengals. Do I like the Raiders? No, I think they suck. But I think the Bengals just let teams hang around. I could see this game being a 10-point game in the fourth quarter with the Raiders driving. If they score, they cover. If they don't, the Bengals, it's just the Bengals annoy me. But I do think Jamar Chase has to be a really good play at low ownership. I mean, I got him 10% owned. They don't have anyone else. They're going to throw it, and Vegas isn't going to be able to handle him. So I do like Jamar Chase. Yoshi let us down last week, but I guess at under 4K, you could look at him. I don't know. I'm just annoyed by the freaking Bengals. And then Vegas, Bowers. I think Bowers is a really good spot here. 6K. Bengals, let me pull up my flow chart real quick. They've given the Bengals have been decent against tight ends, but when they get beat, they've had 2 number 1s against them. Not as good as I'd hope, but I still like Brock Bowers. I think he's just an absolute beast. They don't have a lot of people either. So you could do a little mini stack in this game. Jamar Chase, Brock Bowers, and maybe you just get all the goods from them. But I think I like the Raiders plus the points this week, as bad as that sounds.
Yeah, I like the under in this game. I
like the under too. That's a good call.
45.5 just seems too high.
And the Bengals play cowardly in these spots. Cowardly.
Yeah, exactly. It's like one of those spots, like Tony said, this is going to be like one of those spots where you're pissed when you watch the Bengals because they're winning, but they're not actually they're not dominating.
The Raiders are so bad too, and I can't even pick the Bengals. It's so sad. They're bad.
Yeah, I think the play's the under. And I think you could play a Chase Brown or take a shot. Jamar Chase.
Brown, is Chase Brown going to end up like mega chalk when Moss misses? He's got to, right?
I don't know. That's a good question.
He's got to end up like mega chalk if Zach Moss is out versus people love 7-point favorites at home with no other competition at running back. He's got to end up like 40.
Well, that's when you pivot to Yoshi or Jamar Chase.
The problem is they play cowardly is the issue, though. I agree with you. I don't disagree, but they play so cowardly that, man.
Yeah, Moss is doubtful, so we'll see.
I think he's going to miss just from listening to some of the conversations.
I hope so for my best ball shares because I need Chase Brown bad, baby. I need him bad. I got too much. Chase Brown, I need you to come through the next couple weeks, baby. We need it. ODB, let's get to you here. Tony's on the Raiders, the unders. I'm on
I
the
like
unders.
the under the most. I like your under call.
Yeah, under. What about you?
I think Big T pretty much encapsulated a lot of what I thought in his 2-minute tirade on the Bengals. I also think Orlando Brown is out.
Yeah.
And the offensive line was already terrible. You got Max Crosby. I'm a little concerned for the Bengals here. At the same time, it's never that comfortable taking a team like the Raiders, but I feel like the Raiders fight a lot. I mean, they're scrappy, and Antonio Pierce will kick a field goal to cover at the end if he needs to. So I mean, he's just all about that cover. So yeah, I don't know. It's not comfortable, but I kind of lean Raiders. I think with the Bengals, I mean, I went to Yoshi last week, and he was big disappointment. I think the Bengals just lean on their big two guys, which is Chase Brown and Jamar Chase. I mean, I just think play the Chases or play one of them. I don't think Yoshi is at all part of this offense. I mean, if you want to play Gesicki, fine. I mean, I think that Burton is going to get more work, and he looks like he at least has a ceiling. Yoshi has no ceiling. He has no floor. He just sucks. If he didn't get any work last week, I can't imagine that he's going to go off this week. I'm really trying to figure out what I want to do with this game because like we've talked about on different shows, I still have a big survivor entry in that circle one, and there's under 200 people left, and the Bengals, they're definitely in the discussion as one of the teams to consider, and I really don't want to play them, honestly. I think the Raiders could win this football game. So yeah, I mean, I got to take over a touchdown here. I'm very worried about the Cincinnati offensive line. The defense can be got, and the Raiders fight. So, I mean, everything just kind of lines up to the Raiders. It's not comfortable, but playing bad teams on the road versus a team that's kind of hungry is not going to be comfortable. That's the other thing, though. I mean, the Bengals know their season is going to be defined in the next 5 days. They have to win this game, and then they have to go to Baltimore and find a way to win that game. So it's all hands on deck, and kind of shitty that T. Higgins just decides he can't play again. Not that I'm going to call out T, but I mean, dude, the dude just gets hurt. He's so fragile, and I'd be worried. I mean, yeah, you want to say he's maybe taking the conservative route with the big contract coming. You want to sign this dude? You want to pay franchise money to a guy who can't go out there and play every week? I mean, soft, man.
Listen, perfect example. Michael Pittman was supposed to go on IR a few weeks ago with like a back injury. That he got paid recently, right? Says, no, I'm not going on fucking IR. Like a man, he plays through it. Like some of these wide receivers will just play through shit, and some of them won't. And I think a lot of it has to do not with them personally, not like I'm tougher, or I don't think it has anything to do with that. I think it's more just like, did they pay me? Did they not? If they pay them, they feel loyalty. Like, I'm going to play through it because this team fucking paid me $70 million, like Michael Pittman, right? And for T, it's like, fuck this team. I'm not playing through this injury. Like, they didn't pay me. They still haven't paid me. Like, I want to get paid, and I'm sure that's how he feels. I'm sure that's how he feels. So yeah, it sucks. Whatever. It is funny though, because you did your whole speech, Tony, last week. You did your whole speech. And then I tell you how T. Higgins missed practice with the injury and stuff. And you go, you let me do my whole speech. Yeah. And then you tell me after that he's fucking questionable to play.
I would not have had that. For the record, I still did like the Bengals but I would not have gone on that tangent if I knew T was out, for the record, because then they're a different team.
It was great. I love it.
And I still think, I mean, if T played, they would have had a much better chance to win. I mean, it ended up a blowout, but it wasn't as lopsided as, they fumbled and things snowballed on them in a hurry, but it wasn't like it was just a landslide. It ended up that way. I do like so one thing to note about ODB, though, like Jermaine Burton, just straight eyeball test last week. I hadn't looked at the numbers as far as him. He looked way better than Yoshi. I agree, but I just pulled the snaps up. I mean, Yoshi still played 51 snaps to 24. I know Burton runs higher leverage routes like deep balls and stuff. So I do kind of like the Burton call. I think they could get him more involved against a team like the Raiders.
Here's the thing, 87.5% routes run for Yoshivas, 42.5% routes run for Jermaine Burton. So does that
have to be going forward? I mean, it's like now.
Don't have to be. I'm just saying that's the
okay. So well, just hear me out on this. And I don't have a lot of conviction in this, but T. Higgins was out. He got hurt Friday practice when we were doing this show, right? So what are you going to do? You're going to lean on the guy who's been there for a while, and you're going to let him run. Now they've had basically 9 days. I think it's time to start integrating the rookie.
Only issue with Burton, though, and what you're saying is he's known as like one of the dumbest people they've ever seen in their lives. Like he's terrible in meetings. He's terrible in scouting. Like that's all the rumors from people like in the building, like just saying he's just dumb. Like
I'm definitely not small field stuff, but I mean, if you want to,
just as a Millie type play.
Millie type play. It's a Millie type play. Yeah, it's a Millie type play. He'll be a couple percent owned, and he could he could easily house 2. You know, he could go 4 for 97 and 2 touchdowns. Like, I mean, at 2% ownership.
So just looking at the numbers too, the guy who actually had like the biggest uptick besides Yosivas from a routes run standpoint was actually Mike Gesicki. Besides,
he looked
Burton.
Good too.
Yeah, Mike Gesicki
looked good in that game.
He went from 45% ish in week 7 to 60% of the routes run in week 8. So probably because they were using him and Eric All a little bit more. So,
but that's also a little bit more how the Eagles play defense. I mean, their corners are a little better. I think their corners are probably going to be better than the Raiders. So, you can use the tight end. That tight end across the middle towards the sideline seemed to be like all the Gesicki plays seemed to be like him just going and them throwing the ball like towards the sideline after he came across the field. So I don't know if it was a defensive thing or not, but I mean, Gesicki did look good.
Yeah. Chase Brown and Gesicki might end up the 2 highest owned guys on the whole slate, like at these prices.
Then I want no part of Gesicki if he's high owned, that's for sure. Because that guy can zero so
it's
easily.
Just because he's 3,100 is it? And you guys just said he ran a bunch of routes. He's basically their number 2 receiver with everyone out.
That's kind of how they use.
He's 3,100.
Is it National Tight Ends Holiday or was that last week?
They said it.
Oh, that was last week. Oh, I didn't hear. I didn't hear the narrative.
Yeah. Oh, you were making a joke. I usually get the jokes. I wasn't on it.
By the way, I threw in a last second. I'm talking like 1 minute before the game started. I threw in a tight end parlay because I was like, "Fuck it." All I've been hearing about this stupid National Tight Ends Holiday. If I don't do one, like I'm going to be kicking myself when all these damn tight ends score. And I did. I picked 5 tight ends, and I think they all fucking scored. It was like Kittle or something. I won like $2,000.
I know that.
I was like, thank God, I put
the Red Zone channel said it 4 zillion times.
I mean, dude, they all scored. Like almost every tight end scored. I was just sitting there. I'm like, oh, tight end.
You
Like,
haven't seen me on a show since D-Hop. I've done a show every day for a friggin' however long. What do you mean you haven't seen me on a show? It's all I
think you've been missing some shows, AD. I think you've been missing some shows. I don't even know what
that means. That's all I do is shows.
Yeah,
I've done a show every day this week, right? I've done a show every day this week.
Maybe free shows, Tony, because we've been doing a few behind. No, but I'm saying the last few days have been behind the paywall, maybe. So maybe you're not a member. RPS 15. If you're not a member, there you go. Shows every day. All right, let's keep moving here, though. We spent a lot of time on Tony's Bengals. Shocker. Let's go to Dallas and Atlanta here. Another one of Tony's favorite teams, the Dallas Cowboys. And Mr. Dak Prescott, his other favorite quarterback in the NFL. Tony, 3.5 point dogs here in Atlanta. You're also high on Atlanta coming into the year.
That's what you were going to say, and then you tried to tilt me again by saying in Dallas thing.
I can't help myself. I just have to tilt you with the Dak Prescott. By the way, I don't know if you guys saw, but I think it was Diggs and Micah Parsons were like online, and someone said something about Jaden Daniels, and Diggs goes, I put him in the, or Micah goes, I put him in the top 10. And Diggs goes, top 10? I put him in the top 5. And he goes, who's your top 5 quarterbacks? And he lists like 5 quarterbacks. Dak's not in it. And then they go to like 10. Micah's like rambling off like Sam Darnold and all these guys. And he doesn't name Dak. So they named like 8 or 9 quarterbacks. And literally not one of them was Dak Prescott. I was like, is this real? Like it was just, I couldn't believe it. But yeah, that shows you the faith that some of these players probably have in old Dak Prescott now. But 3.5 point spread. Tony, what are we doing here with Atlanta and Dallas?
Yeah, I mean, I think Atlanta is one of my favorites of the week. Dallas sucks. I'm convinced they're done. I like Atlanta. I think Atlanta is better than people think. And this is an Atlanta spot, too. Like, at home, they're going to be up to play Dallas. Everyone wants to play Dallas and beat up on Dallas, especially when they're bad like this. And you just look at Atlanta's offense, and they just have guys I like. I love Bijan, obviously. I love Drake London. Mooney's look good. And even Pitts, who I think ODB was talking about it last week. I didn't like the call. I always admit when I'm wrong. I still didn't like the Pitts call, and he crushed. Like, he's looked good. Maybe he is turning the corner. Maybe finally, because he's always had the talent. I mean, we've always said that. I just didn't think he could put it together, and he's been good. So that was a good call, and he's looked good. They just have weapons. The way I evaluate teams, a lot of times just comes down to if I like the players. I know that sounds simple, but I look at Atlanta's guys. Their guys are better than Dallas's guys at each position. I mean, outside, even CeeDee Lamb is better than London, but it's not like he's like that much better. I mean, Drake London is good. Yeah, CeeDee Lamb's better. I don't want it to sound like I'm putting those two exactly in the same category, but they're 2 wide receiver ones. You look down the rest of the list, though. I mean, they got no running game. Rico Dowdle, I got so freaking lucky in that high stakes league I do with Josh ODB. We had Rico Dowdle as one of our running backs. You guys will love this. This will show how good. So it's a high stakes league, so it's very important. You can't pick anybody up, though, after the week starts. So Rico was in there. We couldn't pick up Zeke or whoever because the week started. Our only backup guy was Garindo from San Francisco, and he just nukes. Just the run pure of all time. He goes in for Rico and drops a 20-piece on him. But I don't know. I don't like freaking Dallas. I think Atlanta's an easy play. And honestly, well, I think CeeDee Lamb, he finally got off last week. I mean, I think he's an incredible play versus Atlanta because Atlanta has been getting destroyed by some of these top receivers, like destroyed. But I think Atlanta will be able to move the ball. I think we see points in this game for sure, too, because these Atlanta games, they have a chance to snowball once it gets going this year because the other receivers get going, and Dallas does match up decent in the passing game against the Atlanta secondary with Mary Ferguson and CD and these guys. They can get deep. I think Atlanta wins, though, and I think we see points. So I like this game from fantasy-wise, though.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a good fantasy game. ODB, do you agree with Tony? It's Atlanta here and maybe the over, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm beyond tilted about this game. After Sunday night, I said I'm just gonna fire big bet on Atlanta. All week I've been checking the number and just been ready to just fire. It's been 2.5. The juice has been kind of going down a little bit on 2.5. I was like, well, there's no reason to press it. And then like in 4 hours yesterday, the line just jumped by like 40 cents or something. And now it's all the way up to they're almost 3.5. So I'm kind of tilted. I didn't just fire Atlanta at 2.5 like I wanted to. I love Atlanta. This is definitely my favorite game of the week. Don't love it nearly as much at 3.5, but I'm not one of those guys that if you love a game at one number, then all of a sudden you just don't like it at one more point. I mean,
the fact that they'll move it to 3.5 though is a good sign for your side because it's tough to move it like that. So it's a good sign for it.
Yeah, I love Atlanta. I don't see one spot that Dallas is better than Atlanta. I mean, Tony kind of, sometimes you go argue, and sometimes we just have a show where like each other kind of takes each other's comments. Just depends on who speaks first. And Tony spoke first on this game. Where's Dallas better? Atlanta has a better quarterback. Atlanta has a better wide receiving core. CD's better than Drake, but as a wide receiving core, I'll take Atlanta's. Atlanta has a way better run game. Atlanta has a much better defense. Atlanta's at home. Atlanta's better coach. Atlanta doesn't have the infighting.
That's a fully interrupt, but it's going to help you sell your. But Atlanta has the best O line too. Like they don't get pressure on Cousins at all.
Yeah, I mean,
well,
I just
wouldn't work if he was getting pressure.
Yeah,
Trust me, he would
but
not
he never
work.
gets sacked.
Yeah, he would look like one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL if he was getting pressured constantly. So. Yeah.
So to me, Dallas looks like a dysfunctional team. It looks like a dysfunctional unit. I watch them. The play calls are awful. The routes run are awful. I don't see a lot of hope for this Dallas team, and I think this might be the beginning of the end. That San Francisco game was ripe for the taking. I mean, San Francisco was not playing well. Dallas was up going into the second half. And they just got their doors blown off. Another fake comeback, just like they had a fake comeback against Baltimore. I like Atlanta. I don't like watching Dallas play football. I just don't think they're good. I don't think they run good plays. I don't think they run crisp plays. Now, CD's athleticism can do it. I do like this game from a DFS standpoint. I'm not really sure where I want to go on Atlanta side. I'm not sure if it's Bijan season, because you have a bunch of quitters on Dallas. So, I mean, I could see Bijan getting through the line and just taking off. I always like Darnell Mooney because his price point is just lower compared to some of these other guys. I could see a Cousins stack. I could see Cousins even stacked with Bijan and one of the receivers, with a bring back a CD. There's a lot of things you can do in this game. I do like points, and I do like Atlanta quite a bit here.
Yeah, I like points. I like the over 52. I think Dallas is going to score, and I think Atlanta's for sure going to score. So I think I think the run game is going to be good for Atlanta. Bijan is going to just one of these games. He's just going to absolutely nuke. He made a few moves against Tampa in the hole where I was like, he was dropping defenders like with just like putting a foot in the ground and going the opposite way and defenders falling on their face in the fucking hole. Like it was insane. He's going to rip off some huge runs against this team. Dallas was playing the run super heavy against San Francisco too. Like they were putting like 5 guys on the line, really playing the run heavy early in that game. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that against Atlanta. I think if they do that, Atlanta's going to rip them up through the air. And if not, and they play it straight up or more straight up, I think they're going to get killed by Bijan. So, yeah, I think there's points because I do think that Jake Ferguson's a really good DFS play. I think he's going to get peppered. I mean, I think he gets 10 plus targets here. He's 5K, but I think he's a good tight end play. And I think you can play CD, obviously, like Tony said, CD, you can definitely play because trailing script, CD, he can get there in that type of script for sure. So, yeah, great game for DFS. I'm probably going to be heavily invested in that game for sure. So, good side. Let's go to the Chargers and the Browns here. 1 point spread in Cleveland, 42.5. Cleveland's looked a little better after that game. I will say, though, I talked about this division, like Cleveland's division, they all kind of play each other pretty tough. I feel like they're all just like tough, gritty teams. Like Cleveland's defense is pretty solid. And I feel like they all just know each other very well, where I try not to overreact to divisional games where like a Cleveland, who's a, 7.5 point dog, wins to, a team in the Ravens, who's clearly the number 1 team in that division. But I try not to overreact to those games because I feel like it's just going to happen in this division. Like Pittsburgh's going to play Baltimore tough. Pittsburgh's going to they're all just going to play each other tough. We saw Cincinnati. I mean, Cincinnati should have won that game against Baltimore. But like they played them tough. I think you're just going to see that here. So I'm trying not to overreact too much here, but I do like Jameis. Obviously, I think he's a big upgrade just because he doesn't give a fuck. Like ODB said, he's just going to sling the rock. Like he's going to make some boneheaded plays. He's going to make some, stupid turnovers and stuff like that. But he's also going to make some plays down the field, something that Deshaun Watson he couldn't really do. Like he really struggled to do that. So I think they can slow down the run. And if you can slow down a run against the Chargers, I think you have a good shot. I'm going to side Cleveland here. I also like the under. I think the under is the play as well at 42.5. ODB, I'll throw it to you first here. What do you like?
Yeah, I liked where you started with that. I'm not going to overreact to them beating Baltimore either. Division game, just a complete pump of adrenaline through the entire organization with Deshaun being out and getting their vocal leader in there with Jameis. I typically pick against the Chargers this year because I don't like their weapons and I think they've been overvalued by the market. That being said, I'm going to completely flip it this week. I think the Chargers are being undervalued. I think Jameis ran super hot in that game. I think Jim Harbaugh is going to figure out how to slow down Jameis, force him into mistakes. Doesn't hurt the fact that John Harbaugh just played him this past week. So if there's anything there, I'm sure brotherly love will come in and give them a little information. I think the Chargers, this is kind of a game where I want to pick the Chargers, where I don't think the offense can keep up. I think they can make it a slogfest and their defense can win the football game. So I'm going to like the Chargers here and kind of fade the Chargers when they play better offensive teams that can force them into having to score more points. I think the Chargers have enough to win this game, and I don't really trust Jameis versus a good quality defense. So I like the Chargers here. I like them a decent amount.
All right, Tony, which side are you on here? Chargers or the Jameis Winston-led Cleveland Browns?
It's funny because I think the two best teams I've had all year as far as betting that I feel like I just have a dead read on are the Chargers and the Broncos. I just feel like every week the games look easy to me. And the Chargers, when they play physical teams like Cleveland, they can't really move the ball on offense as well. I'm just going to like the Chargers. And the one worry, though, I was dead set on this take, and then JSU did bring up the good point about the running game where – so we had this argument, I think, not an argument, but we brought it up 4 or 5 weeks ago on the show where I talked about my numbers and this Browns rush defense. And whoever it was in the chat was like, they get crushed and blah, blah, blah. And their defense has been so good against the run. They've given up only one top 10 running back all year. And it's crazy how good they've been. So if they can just totally shut down the ground game, it's going to make the Chargers throw. So it makes me go back a little bit, but then I feel like they're going to be able to throw, which makes it good fantasy plays, like good pivots where people aren't going to really see it. Like McConkey's been good. He's 5,600. I think he was the second highest scorer last week at receiver. I'm pretty sure.
He crushed. Yeah, him and Calvin Ridley, they were both like 5K, and I think they were both optimal. I think they were like two of the top scorers. Yeah.
So if I think JSU walked me into maybe one of the better stacks of the week, low owned. Justin Herbert is 5,300. What happens so you got a couple outs now if you do this. I don't usually give fantasy takes on this show. Say Jameis Winston's able to move the ball again. That's good for the Chargers passing game. If he shuts it down and they shut down the ground game, Herbert in the passing game, it's still good. So you got multiple outlets. J.K. Dobbins is 7K. That's expensive. I think they'll shut him down. I think you got a low price stack. Quentin Johnston's due back this week. He looked good early in the year. Deep play threat. I mean, you got Justin Herbert, 5,300. McConkey, 5,600 for McConkey. Might be the worst price on the board as far as how good he's looked. So, and not ownership, and Quentin Johnston and Josh Palmer. I think this is a sneaky stack, and I wasn't expecting that coming in. You kind of talked me into it.
Let me interject real quick. if you want a sneaky player from this game, if you think Gesicki is going to be high owned, Will Dissly has actually been really good the last couple of weeks. He had 11 targets 2 games ago and 7 targets last game at 3,100. If you're gonna play a stack there, 18 targets in 2 weeks for a $3,100 tight end. If you're gonna play Herbert, off the chalk. What's wrong with Will Dissly?
They use the tight end a lot in that offense.
God, like looking at Cleveland versus receiver, everything checks out. Like, man, it looks like a really sneaky good spot.
I wasn't going to talk too much about fantasy, but since we're on the subject, I kind of just said I think that, I kind of just gave an open end. Like, I think that Cleveland could slow down this run game. One of my takes is with J.K. Dobbins, and I don't know if you guys have like watched him the last 2 weeks, but he just doesn't look the same as the beginning of the season. He's had 2 really good matchups, like really, really good matchups. And he's just been okay with them. Like he doesn't look like he's got, and maybe I'm just wrong or whatever, but it just doesn't look like the same burst that he had early in the season. And remember, this is a running back who's had injury issues, big injury issues, his career. I'm just wondering if maybe they used him a little too much too early, and he might be slowing down a little bit too. So on top of the fact that I think Cleveland can slow him down, I think he's actually slowing down. And again, that's just, from what I'm seeing, I could be totally wrong on that, but that's just another take I have. So maybe the passing game, I could get on board with Ladd. Like I could get on board with, taking a shot on some of these guys here. Another guy that's been really good is Cedric Tillman. I know it's not the best spot, but he's just been really good. And we know Jameis isn't going to shy away from it. I just don't know what his ownership's going to be. I assume it's still going to be decent because he's 4,300, but he's clearly their number one guy. Like, I don't even think it's a question. He's over Judy. He's over Moore.
I like him with you, but man, it's tough. When he starts getting up 25%, it gets tough to click that button.
Well, yeah, that's my only thing. Okay.
It gets tough, but I do like him.
Timeout. Malcolm, I'm fine with you putting me in my place. You can own me for bad takes. You can own me for hating Bo Nix. Do not put Jaden Daniels in this damn discussion with Bo Nix. I can't
handle any more Bo Nix discussion on this show. Please move it along.
You said rookie of the year?
Oh.
I
can't do any more Bo. How dare who got us sidetracked?
Malcolm. Yeah, like you could just make fun of me. Say Bo Nix is good. Just make fun of me and say Bo Nix is
Malcolm
good.
Is stirring. He's a spot stirrer.
Malcolm. Oh. All right.
Me.
I gotta give a little woo-saw for a second here. I got Jaden Daniels 50-1 MVP tickets. Leave Jaden alone, okay? So does Tony. So we're rooting for Jaden.
Let us have the MVP and Bo can have the offensive or whatever he said.
How crazy would that be if somehow that would never happen, obviously. But
we were drawing very thin last week when he wasn't going to play, and then he went from not playing to throwing a Hail Mary to win it. It was a very good week.
Literally, like at the end of the year, that's going to be one of those plays they play. Like at the end on like one of those commercials for like the whole regular season. That's going to be like one of the endings to it, which is just awesome when you just have the NFL's going to love Jaden Daniels.
The dude's over there taunting the crowd, and then he goes and tips the ball right into the back.
Yeah. Hey, we'll take it. Honestly, too, for a Hail Mary, he threw it perfect. Like, he perfect. Gave it. I mean, it was perfect.
Give him a chance. That's all you got to do. Just give him a chance.
He threw it like right close to the line. So like if it gets tipped back, they're not out of, like a lot of times when you see Hail Marys, if it gets tipped at all, even if it goes backwards, they're too far in the end zone. So it gets tipped like out of bounds. This one got tipped like right into the middle or closer to the beginning of the end zone. So it was literally like as good of a pass as you could give without it just falling in someone's lap, obviously. But all right. Enough of that. Let's keep moving here. People trying to sidetrack me. You guys know I get sidetracked easily. New Orleans and Carolina. This should be a a short game here. Derek Carr expected to be back. Carolina expected to continue to start Bryce Young, I think, for this game here. We saw this matchup, I think it was week 1, where New Orleans just absolutely routed this Carolina Panthers team. And that started the whole, is New Orleans really good? And then they beat the shit out, I think, Dallas. And then they start, coming back down to reality. And then Derek Carr gets hurt. Now they get Derek Carr back. So what does this do for fantasy? And what does this do? Obviously, 7-point spread. ODB, do you like the Saints or the Panthers?
Yeah, I like the Saints here. I think this is a really good spot just to kind of get out their frustrations of the last 5 weeks. They have a familiar opponent and one that's very bad. I think they're getting a lot of their guys back. I think my stack, my DFS stack is going to be Carr to Olave. I mean, it's just such a clear spot to try to get Olave off, and Carolina can't stop anybody. I think this is really a good smash spot for the Saints. I like this Coker guy too. I mean, he looks like the real deal, and obviously it always sucks to play, receiver on Carolina, but I mean, somebody's going to get those targets, and if I think the Saints are going to beat them and get some points, there's going to be some garbage time available. So I kind of think Coker's a nice little player too. So I like the Saints here. I like them quite a bit. I'm going to be pushing for them in Survivor. So I don't know if I'll end up there, but that's kind of what I want to do. So yeah, I'm on the Saints.
I'm with you. I'm on the Saints too. Tony, can we make it 3 for 3 on the Saints?
Well, one thing you can for sure bank on me. I haven't looked at their schedule. I am not taking Carolina the rest of the year. You can bet it. I don't know what the matchup would have to be. I'm sure there's some matchup out there I'm not thinking of that maybe I could take them, but they are bad, and I'm going to go against them every week. But we do get my boy this week. It sticks out like a sore thumb, Mr. Taysom. You're going against a team that can't stop the run. You're going to be playing from ahead. He's only 3,800 at tight end. We haven't used him since the week he scored twice. Some guys I just have a feel for, and my God, this is a Taysom spot. If I've ever seen one in a while, this is a Taysom spot, and I can't wait to use him. I do like Olave too. I like that call. And I even like this Tipton dude, 4K. Just looking at the matchups, he checks off as a pretty good matchup at 4K, and he's going to be totally unowned, like 0% owned. That's just a total flyer there, but my favorite play is for sure Taysom. I mean, and I love the Saints to just roll. I think the Saints win by whatever they beat them that first time, they beat them again by that. Just pound them, like 30-point victory. I mean, Carolina is bad. And they lost Deontay now to Trey. I mean, I just can't imagine them not blowing them out in this spot.
Yep, we agree on that. Let's go to a game. Philadelphia and Jacksonville, 7.5-point spread in Philly versus Jacksonville, 45.5 is the total. ODB, you're right on the Eagles last time out. Are you going back to the Eagles, 7.5-point favorites at home?
This is kind of a game I'm not really sure from a betting perspective. Jacksonville does play tough. When I say play tough, I mean offensively. They're always in there throwing the ball and always have that chance of backdoor cover. Eagles kind of a team that I'm going to like against better teams, and I feel they kind of sleepwalk some. But yeah, I could see a lot of points in this game. I'd probably lean towards the over. As far as laying the 7.5, I don't know. It could be sleepy, could be a little bit of a sleepy spot for the Eagles. But yeah, I mean, also we need to see who's playing for Jacksonville. I mean, is Thomas going to play? Is Gabe Davis? He's not good, but he is another weapon. I mean, if you take out Thomas and Davis and Kirk, it's a whole different team. Yeah, I don't really feel good spending my hard-earned money on Jacksonville, but I also do think the Eagles might be a little sleepy. So I would either go over or nothing for this game. Fantasy wise, I mean, Jacksonville gives up a lot of points, so you can always explode with Hurts and one of his receivers or Barkley. So totally fine if you want to use them as your stars. But yeah, I don't really have a strong feel for this as a actual game and betting versus spread.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. I do like AJ Brown. So a lot of these top tier receivers look really good. So I'm just gonna have to. I can't play them all. And Jacksonville is a team that I do like to attack. This could be a spot where AJ Brown definitely could go nuke here. He is 8,100 though, so. From a betting perspective, I think it is, like you said, kind of tough for me as well. Tony, Eagles, Jacksonville, me and ODB don't really love this game. Do you like it a little more than us, or are you kind of with us here?
Yeah, I mean, we just have done so many shows. These are the games that we all kind of agree on. I just don't ever like these games. The games I like to bet on are like the closer spreads where you get a solid lean on the public being one way. These are always just hard spots because I feel like Jacksonville is always the correct play here. But man, how can we take Jacksonville in Philly? It's just hard to click it. And I just don't think there's much value in that. One thing he could like is the over, but even that, like Philly's D's been better. I don't know. It's a tough game. I do agree with the fantasy side though. I think AJ Brown might be my favorite receiver of the week, even ahead of those other guys, because outside receivers, we always talk about slot, but outside receivers versus Jacksonville have been what has really done the damage. And that's where AJ Brown's one of the best. So I was trying to find this thing I saw on Twitter. I can't find it right now. It doesn't matter. Good spot though. Saquon could crush. A lot of these guys could crush, honestly. Like Jacksonville gets just crushed in all areas. But I don't know. Like Brian Thomas, does he play? He's been questionable. I think he probably plays, but if he sits, that really hurts the offense even more. I don't know. I agree with a lot of your guys' takes. I don't have any fun disagreements on this one.
Ingram's could be a nice play too. I mean, when Kirk didn't play last year, Ingram ate, and also you saw Gesicki go nuts versus the Eagles last week. Ingram could easily get 10, 12 targets. I could see Ingram being a pretty nice tight end if you want to spend up for tight end. We've already talked about a couple value guys that you see. So usually those middle of the tier tight ends go kind of under owned. People like to either play 3,000 or go up to Bowers or something. So I could see Ingram being, a little under the radar, and there's a big opportunity for him.
All right. Yeah. I could definitely see him getting peppered here with no Christian Kirk, but if they lose Brian Thomas, that'll be huge. He did practice, I think, on Thursday. So did Gabe Davis. I don't know if he practiced today. I would assume he practiced. So we'll see. I'm sure they'll be questionable, maybe trending towards playing. But let's go to the next game, a little closer of a game here. We got Chicago and Arizona. In Arizona, 1.5 point spread over on DraftKings Sportsbook. 44.5 is the total in this game here. ODB, you've been really high on the Cardinals this year. They're at home. They are slight favorites to a solid Bears team here, obviously losing in that way. But honestly, to that point where they got ahead, they weren't really good most of that game against the Washington team. So, yeah, they did get unlucky with the Hail Mary, but they really kind of didn't play that good all game. So did they deserve to win? I don't know about that. I mean, it's just one of those things where an unfortunate thing happened at the end of the game, but they could have won that game against Washington. They just, in my opinion, they didn't play good enough for 4 quarters to be like, they should have definitely won that game. That's just my opinion. But Cardinals, Bears, it's 2 solid teams. What do you think here?
They should have beaten the Commanders. They also gave the ball to a 700-pound lineman at the 1-yard line.
The Commanders stalled out 70 times for field goals.
Yeah, exactly like they did against the Giants. They've had 7 field goals, no touchdowns. The Commanders don't score touchdowns. That's
How many
just
field goals did the Bears stall out for?
No, I'm just saying that's exactly what the Commanders do. They kick field goals. They're a field goal kicking team. Um, I like the Bears in general, and I like the Cardinals in general. I've actually been really good picking Cardinals games both ways. Um, I would really wanted to like the Bears this week. I thought that I was going to like the Bears this week. I'm a little worried they have some offensive line major issues. Also, liked Swift last week. He came through nice. He was my running back I played. But yeah, I think this I think this Bears team is pretty good. I think they're ascending. I think they had a little rust in the first half coming out of the bye. I think they can do some work against this Cardinals team. The Cardinals defense, not that good. Occasionally they kind of step up and play okay, but this is just a fun game, man. Kyler Murray and Caleb Williams, 2 little guys that just run around and make shit happen out of the pocket. They got decent receivers, good running backs. I like both of these offenses. I think the Bears defense is a little bit better, so I kind of lean towards the Bears. But I don't know. I don't know what a loss like that does to a team in the locker room. Sometimes it galvanizes. Sometimes they just spend the whole time pointing fingers at each other. This is a young team, so I'm not really sure. I am very concerned about the offensive line issues for the Bears. And this line has flipped from Bears being a small favorite to the Cardinals being a small favorite. That means money's probably coming in on the Cardinals. So I'm going to give it an ever so slight lean early right now to the Bears, but I'm not going to commit that that's what I'm playing game day or if I'm even going to play this game at all.
All right. Tony, what about you here? Do you kind of feel the same way as ODB that you don't know how much you love this game? You have a lean, but it's not your favorite game, or do you feel strongly about this game? You're on mute.
Wow, 100 shows in a row.
I know. It's like 4. It is a lot in a row. It's terrible. It's these damn kids. I keep yelling at them, and I forget to come off mute. Unbelievable. I'm disappointed in myself.
When in doubt, though, guys, professional, just blame your kids. It's easy enough.
Correct.
Yeah.
The worst part about that one, though, I was on mute a minute ago, and I looked out and said something, and in my head, I'm like, I got to come off mute or they're going to make fun of me, and I still forgot to do it, so made it even worse. It was like being on mute twice. I got on twice, but I agree with ODB here. I just don't. I've liked a lot of Arizona games this year. Chicago might be the toughest team for me to read of any team in football. I talked about some of the teams I've done good with. I just don't have a feel for the Bears. I like them coming into the year. I feel like they're a decent team. They're kind of like the Giants for me, where I feel like they're decent, but then they'll just have games where they suck. It's on the road. I just don't love this game. If I had to pick, it would for sure be the Bears. I think this game could be somewhat low scoring too for the two teams. What is the total currently? The total is 44.5. Yeah, I kind of like the under with the way these teams play. I got to lean Arizona, or I got to lean the Bears, but I don't love it. I agree with a lot of the things you guys said.
So it's interesting. You go back and look at the Bears schedule, who they played, who they beaten. They beat Tennessee. That game was week 1. That was, that was, in my opinion, they weren't looking good for a while, but they did win. They beat the Rams with no Puka, no Cooper, but the Rams are a solid team, I think. Panthers, okay, they suck. Jaguars, okay, they suck, but they did crush those teams. It was, 20-point, 25-point games. Lose to the Commanders, lose to the Colts and the Texans. I think the Bears are good. I think they play in the best division in football. So, when I say they're good, I still think they're probably 3rd or 4th in their division, honestly. But I think all 4 of those teams are really good teams. So it's not like a downgrade for me to say that. I think this is the first team. I think Arizona and the Bears, they should be almost like a pick 'em, like a 1.5, because I think they're very close in skill. I think the Bears' slight edge is definitely defensively. Their defense is better than the Arizona defense for sure in my eyes. Is the Arizona offense, I think, a little better than the Chicago Bears right now? Maybe just a little bit. So I'm going to lean the Bears. I think overall the defense is going to win out in this game. I think the Bears defense, as long as the Bears offense can just do enough, which is kind of all they need, I think they'll be able to squeak out a win here against Arizona. So two good teams. I think the Bears might just be a little bit better, so I'm leaning them. Let's go to the next game here. Probably the running backs, good plays just in general from that game too. I think both guys are solid. Detroit versus Green Bay here. This line has come down a little bit. It's now 3 on DraftKings Sportsbook, 47.5 total. Jordan Love, I saw he practice, I think, yesterday. I think he's going to play. The line kind of coming down to me says Jordan Love probably plays. ODB, I'll throw it to you here first. Lions, Packers, divisional game in Green Bay, 47.5 total, 3-point spread. What are you doing with this game?
I'm just going to wait as long as possible before I bet Detroit because I'm pretty sure that Love's going to be ruled in and this line's going to come all the way back down. Minnesota was 2.5-point dogs at Green Bay a couple weeks ago. And then I think Minnesota was a small favorite at home versus Detroit. So basically the market a couple weeks ago had the Vikings in Detroit pretty similarly marked. Now, granted, the Vikings have gone down and the Lions have gone up a little bit, but I think the Packers are kind of right where they're supposed to be. So I'm going to assume that this line's going to get a lot closer to pick, maybe 1.5. So I'm just going to wait for Love to be in, and then I'm just going to take the better team. I trust the Lions more. All season long, I've been saying the Lions are the best team in the NFL, and I've been kind of saying that the Packers are just above average team, but not elite. So I can't really say that and then just take the Packers here. So I'm just going to have to take the Lions. I think the Lions are a better team. And it should be a good football game, though, because, it is Lambeau Field, and we do know that Goff is better indoors. And if they slip up, then this isn't gonna. I'm not ready to write off Detroit as being the best team in the league. If they lose here, I could definitely see this being a high scoring football game. Fantasy wise, these two teams are just kind of teams that spread it around. So I'm never really that excited about playing pieces, even if I do think it's going to be a high scoring game. So if you're going to play this game, I think just go ahead and stack the game. But I'm just going to take Detroit. I'm going to take the better team in a small number, hopefully. And, if it's Malik Willis, then all hands on deck and just go ahead and pump the Lions because they're going to smash Malik.
All right, Tony, ODB is waiting for this line to hopefully come down a little bit more, get the Lions at the best possible number. Probably if Jordan Love gets out, I do think it maybe comes down just a little bit more. So, if you're on the Lions side, if already you're going to bet it, it's probably not a bad idea to just wait because it does look like Jordan Love, I think, is going to try and play. But where are you at with this game, Tony?
Yeah, I don't think the line moves from where it's at. I think 2.5 is a pretty good number. If he gets rolled out, obviously, I think it goes up to 3.5, 4, way more, like way up. I don't know what it'll 5, maybe even 5 or 6.
5. I think it goes to 5. 5.
But I think 2.5. I love Detroit. I'm still waiting for a little regression from the Hutch thing, though. Who have they played? They've played. Let me pull up their exact schedule. Who have they played the last couple of weeks? They haven't played any outdoor games. I know that. It feels like every game's in a dome for them. So they played the Vikings in a dome, Cowboys, Seahawks, Cardinals. Yeah, I like Green Bay. I'm not as much of a Green Bay fan as JSU, but I do like this spot for Green Bay. Outdoors, I think they match up really good too. And all this goes to say the same thing, that if Malik is in there. All these takes are off. I'm not sticking by my takes if the quarterback is out. But I like Green Bay. I think Jaden Reed is one of the best plays of the week. Just looking at this chart I saw, he's got the number one matchup of the week in the slot. Like, the matchup is just premier for him. But the downside is what ODB said, where both these teams have to be two of the more annoying teams in football with. They just spread it around, and you don't know who's going to go. Like last week, they scored 1 million points, Detroit, and just no one crushed except Gibbs, who broke a long one or 2 long ones even. I can't remember exactly. But, I mean, Amon-Ra just doesn't get any volume. The Packers got 1 million receivers. It's tough fantasy-wise. It is. You just have to almost get lucky with it. Just pick a guy and go with it. Jaden Reed would be my guy this week, though, that I like. But, again, I do agree with ODB's take on that. I like the Packers, though. As long as Love's in there, I'm on the Pack. And I like the teasers because 2.5 up to 8.5. I don't want to do it, though. That's another thing I agree on. I don't want to do anything till Sunday. This is a game I can wait until kickoff because I do see there's a little bit of weather expected, too. I don't know how bad it'll be. We always say
it could be a downpour.
So we got weather. We got quarterback injury. I don't see a reason to bet it right now. So wait till Sunday when we have all the information and then proceed.
I will say, if it's a downpour, like a groin injury, you know how easy it is to just slip and fucking pull that thing again? Like, if it's a downpour, that actually sucks for Jordan Love because all he has to do is fucking plant and slip once as he's running fucking laterally, and the groin pulls again, and, you know, he's back to square one. And then we got Malik Willis. And like Tony said, if Malik Willis comes into this game, that's bad. They can handle Malik Willis coming into a lot of games in the NFL and win those games. Detroit is not one of those teams. This is like ODB said, these are two of the, well, he didn't say these are two of the best teams in football, but like, to me, these are two of the best teams in football, and against one of the best teams in football, you can't just lose Jordan Love. You can't lose your starting quarterback for Malik Willis. You can't do that. You can't just pound the rock up the middle with Josh Jacobs against Detroit. That'll work against some teams. That won't work against Detroit, especially if Malik comes in. That won't work. So, yeah, you know, I'm on the Packers side, obviously, but it stinks because this does feel like a bad spot for Jared Goff, going on the road, not in a dome, outside. There's weather on top of it. Those are all bad things for Jared Goff. They're down one of their, I mean, you can make the case J-Mo's been their best weapon receiving-wise, their biggest threat at least, you know, going deep down the field. He's been their biggest threat receiving. They're down him for this game. That's a loss right there. Obviously, they're going to try and run the football. I think also the under is the play because J-Mo's not in the game. They're going to be Detroit is going to run the football as much as possible because I think the way you beat Green Bay is not through the air. Look what they're doing to some of these passing teams, these receivers and stuff. They're shutting them down. The way you beat them is through the ground. You know, it was like the Joe Mixon, Houston. Like, Houston was terrible passing, but Joe Mixon just kept them in that game and gave them a chance to win that game that really they shouldn't have been in. But Joe Mixon was just awesome, and that run game was awesome. Detroit's going to do that. Detroit's going to pound the rock with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. They're going to probably touch the ball 35-plus times. And on the other side, I think Jordan Love and the Packers are going to play super conservative because of his injury. If he was fully healthy, I think the reverse would happen. I think it would be more of a high-scoring game because I think they'd be less conservative. I think they're going to play it way more conservative because when you watch Jordan Love play, a lot of the stuff that they do where they kind of like roll him out of the pocket, move the pocket a little bit, like that still takes him moving. That still takes him moving like laterally and backward, and, you know, like to make the plays down the field because they need time to develop for like Jaden Reed. That's not going to happen in this spot here, I don't think, because of the injury. I don't think they're going to try and move him around. I don't think they're going to want him to move around that much. It's just going to be like drop back, get the ball out, which means less big plays down the field. Like Tony was talking about with Jaden Reed, like one of the better matchups I think if anything, it's going to be more quick. I hope not. I hope he feels totally better. I don't know how you're going to just feel that much better right away and go into a weather spot against the Lions. But either way, I think the under's the play here, 47.5. And I like the Packers. Packers defense definitely in play. I think defenses are in play if you want to go that route. But yeah, 2,700 Packers defense at home. I could get on board with that. 2,700 Packers defense. So yeah, that's it. Anything else here from this game, guys? Good game. Nope. All right. Let's go to another game, another good game that I do like a lot here. LA Rams and the Seattle Seahawks. The Rams 1-point favorites in Seattle. It's a 48 total in this one. Tony, I'll throw this one to you first here. Which side are you on, Rams or Seattle? I will note DK Metcalf. I don't know if he practiced today. He didn't practice yesterday. So we'll see if he plays. I think that would be a big loss if he doesn't play. And then on the other side, you got the Puka, questionable. I saw a report saying, I wouldn't bet against him and stuff like that. But he's definitely still dealing with, some type of knee injury. But he was dealing with it last game, Tony, when everyone, told us he was barely going to play, and then he crushed all his props. So, we'll see what happens with Puka. What do you like here?
I just don't like the Rams. I've kind of talked about it all year. Puka got dinged up again in practice. He's going to be annoying because of how good he is when he's in there. But I love
Okay, Metcalf is out, by the way, Steven said so.
I love this spot for Seattle, though, even with DK out. I just think it's a really good spot for them to get loose a little bit. Kenneth Walker, JSN, who's been terrible all year, Lockett, who I don't love. It looks like Noah Fant might be out too. So Noah Fant and DK Metcalf both out. That does hurt Seattle a decent amount. As I'm talking up Seattle, I'm having flashbacks of T. Higgins last week because those are two. Noah Fant's not like awesome or anything, but he does make some plays for him at tight end. So that does open up a tight end, though. I remember the one showdown slate, AJ Barner, 2,600. That's a good price with Noah Fant out. So I'm still sick in Seattle, though. I think this is the Seattle spot at home this time of year. I don't see the Rams going in there and winning. So give me Seattle. I like Kenneth Walker a decent amount too.
ODB, do you agree with Tony? Is this a Seattle spot at home?
No chance he doesn't like the Rams. I know some things about ODB. There's no way he doesn't like the Rams.
I don't typically even like the Rams. I just think Seattle sucks. I mean, I've been fading Seattle for the last month, and it's great. I mean, watching Seattle play defense, it just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's the Giants out there. It doesn't matter if it's the Bills. It doesn't matter who it is. This team lets teams drive down the field and score. What is Stafford good at? Driving down the field and scoring. Seattle can't stop the run. Kyron Williams is great. Seattle can't stop the pass. Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford, Demarcus Robinson, possibly Puka Nacua. You have a rejuvenated team in the Rams. You have a very well-coached team in the Rams. You have, if I remember correctly, I think the Rams even play Seattle traditionally well. I think there's like a coach's roulette in that division. I'm not really sure. Obviously, this is a new coach with Seattle, but you still have the teams and the players. I'm pretty sure the Rams own this matchup. Yeah, I mean, there are two games that I circled this week early on, and nothing has changed my mind, and it's the Falcons and it's the Rams. I just do not like Seattle as a team. I don't like their defense at all. And if you don't have DK and you don't have Fant, the Rams seem like they're coming together a little bit. I love the Rams here.
Yeah. So I was assuming that Puka was going to be totally fine, and but playing this game now, obviously it's definitely a in or out. He might be out. It looks like he's going to try his best to play, but This is my favorite spot of the week. I love the Rams. I think the Rams are just going to absolutely torch Seattle. Like at 1 point favorites. I know it's in Seattle, but I think the Rams are just one of those teams. Like ODB said, when you got a defense who they just really can't stop much. The Rams are just going to drive down the field. Like they're when all these guys are healthy. I mean, they were doing it kind of with just Kyron as like the main focus and DeMarcus and Jordan Whittington. But when you got Cooper Kupp back and possibly Puka Nacua to add to all these other weapons, Matthew Stafford is way better with all these weapons, obviously. And I don't think Seattle is going to be able to stop this offense. I think they're going to be able to get what they want. And I think they win this game pretty handily here. So I got them winning by 2+ touchdowns. I think there's going to be some good DFS plays. If Puka's in, then it makes it a little tougher, I guess, from a DFS standpoint, because I'm sure it's going to be like last time where everyone's like, oh, he might only play X amount, or he's going to play limited. What did they say? He's going to play limited or something like that. And he did play limited. He didn't play 90% of the snaps or anything like that. But, when he was out there, he was involved was the main point. So yeah, we'll see. Me and ODB definitely on the Rams, Tony on Seattle. Don't see many of those 2v1s. I'll just say me and ODB on the same side and Tony on the opposite side. So
love being on the opposite side of you two donkeys.
I'll tell you, it doesn't happen.
You guys need more time together. You need to bond a little bit up in the top row up there.
We need to gel a little more as a unit right here. This is because normally it's ODB and Tony or me and Tony.
We agree a lot on a lot of the stuff. There's more. I like a little disagreements in other areas though.
It is just funny, though, because you're normally the one that's with somebody. You're not normally the one on the island by yourself. So
I like going 2v1. I like every once in a while I'll do a 1v2, but I like 2-on-1.
Listen, it's good for the show to throw people off the scent. You know what I mean? They might think this is a bit, where me and ODB just always disagree. And then,
I don't
Tony's
think they
on
think
one
it's
of
a
our
bit
sides.
when you guys just start arguing. I don't think they think that's a bit.
Well, for your information, it's fucking not. So, but if you didn't know that, all right, hit the like button on the video if you like when me and ODB fight. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. RPS 15% off your first monthly or weekly payment. We're trying to get a promo code started, I think, in the next couple weeks.
I was saying something too while you're talking about this promo. So some guy on Twitter sent me a message and he's like, I don't need SaberSim, which SaberSim's amazing, but I get that. Everyone doesn't use SaberSim. And people talk about our prices at Run Pure. If you don't use SaberSim and you buy an annual, it's $800 on the site, which is for a year, obviously. But if you use the promo, which the promo works for the annual too, the 15%, it goes down to $680 for the whole freaking year for every sport. And I'm not just like saying whatever. I mean, $680, what is that per month? $56 a month to get content for every freaking sport. I don't know how it could be a better price and you get the Discord, you get everything. I don't like pitch stuff hard on these free shows ever, but $56 a month? ODB doesn't have anything to do with Run Pure. ODB, that's a fair deal, isn't it? Every freaking sport for $56 a month.
I will say that you guys have a lot of people and you have a lot of winners. You put out a lot of content, more content than anybody I see. And just if you enjoy you enjoy the free stuff, I mean, you might as well just give these guys a little something for their time and effort. I mean, they put together a lot of time and effort just to try to provide content and winners and help you guys. And, are they perfect and going to give winners all the time? No, but nobody is. This is sports gambling and DFS where we're trying to live on the margins and we're trying to, just put ourselves in position to do some good things. And, Run Pure doesn't give me any of the profits. I get nothing. I just do this because I appreciate what BIGT and now JSU, we've become, friends through this show. But, I just like to support BIGT and the group here at RPS because I think you guys do good work. and you put your heart and your soul into it, and you live and die. And I see you guys get more excited for, your subscribers wins and losses than you do for yours. So I just think you might as well just reward people for doing good things. Tip these guys, buy them a lunch. I mean, basically that's all you're doing is you're just buying them a lunch. You're buying the content providers a cup of coffee once a month. That's all it is.
If you think about it, ODB, $56 a month. Yeah, if you go out to lunch, 3 times or something like that during the month, you're probably spending close to $56 now on your food. So it's kind of like going to lunch 3 times, but it's just cheap if you don't use Sabre. Sabre's the cost. So that's just the truth. You know what I mean?
Which I brought that up too, because I didn't want it to sound like I'm saying don't buy Sabre, because there's a place for that too. But there's place for both. Like if you're playing a bunch of teams, you do need something like that too. But not everyone. There's people that only play one team, and you just don't need that. If you're playing a little bit of money, you don't need. I don't want it to sound like I'm saying don't buy Sabre, but
it's not don't buy Sabre. It's more just if you don't use an optimizer or you don't need an optimizer, you can get the annual. And like Tony said, it gets broken down into, a pretty cheap cost.
And everyone always talks about our prices. It's like, if you look at that price, you can't tell me that's too expensive. Even like ODB said, if you're literally just in the Discord to hang out and talk sports, it's worth $56 a month. Nothing else. Don't even look at any of the content. Just the Discord's $56.
There's Brad Moore, and I know he was in for the football season, and he's been in the Discord all football season. I mean, it is by far probably the best Discord in the industry. I'm, not saying it just because it's just the fact. Like, we've just got a really good Discord community, a lot of sharp people that are just in there talking sports, whatever sports you play. So yeah, it's just the truth. And sign up, use that code, and you can use it for the annual $56. It averages out to, if you're not using Sabre. If you want Sabre, we got those packages too. So, all right. Just wondering, is it 56? I see all sports, no Sabre sim is 100 on the site. Is there a discount?
That's what I was saying. So
the discount is RPS 15. So if you go buy the annual package, so for the whole season, right? If you use that discount code, it averages out to $56 a month. It's
if
like
you do it just monthly, it'll be $85 with the discount, but that's paying each month. And I'm one of the monthly people. Like, I do that. I'd probably pay the $85 a month instead of paying one time for $56.
We were just saying, if you want the best bang for your buck and you're not using Sabre, the annual, you can get it and it will be worth $56 per month. Yes, it's RPS 15, just like that, just like this, so people can see it on the screen. RPS 15, and that'll get you 15% off. You can also use JSU 15 if you want. I think that works too. I think BIGT 15 probably works.
Don't put people. I don't think they do still. They might, but I don't think they do.
I think it's the same shit. Honestly, I think it works, but whatever. In cash games, who do you? I don't normally. In cash games, start who at QB?
Watch the Sunday morning show.
There is a cash show that I think they just recorded. So, Amy, there is a cash show. Bryce and Mangone do. It's free. It's on this YouTube channel, and they go through all cash games. If you're building cash, those guys play, high dollar cash games, head to heads and stuff like that. And they take you through, the cash game builds for this week and stuff like that. So that's on this YouTube channel. It's a different show, but it just got recorded. I'm pretty sure they went live at like 3:30. So they're probably finished up with it now, and you can rewatch it. So there you go. If you're looking for cash game content, boom, we got you covered right here on this YouTube channel. All right, Tony, final words here before we get out of here. Anything?
Nope. Let's have a good week.
ODB?
Yeah. Just excited for a good week of football. My 2 best plays, Falcons, Rams. So let's come back and celebrate those, and JSU and I together on the best plays. So
I kind of hope you guys win together. Just bring
the
you guys
winner's circle. Let's go. Who is your other favorite play? Which one was it?
Falcons. I
Falcons,
think we're all on the Falcons, though.
I can get on board with the Falcons. Yeah. But Rams for sure. Let's go, baby. We're going to be in the winner's circle. Big T's going to get owned this week. I can't wait. Guys, Sunday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern time, the Morning Wood, me, Big T, Wiley back doing the Sunday show, talking all main slate DFS. So if you're into that, which I'm sure you are, come on over Sunday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern time. Until then, for Big T, ODB, and myself, we'll see you guys Sunday. We're out.